We're all good? If we can reconvene to open session, the board has been in executive session since 6 o'clock to discuss some professional personnel matters, contractual matter, and some retreat planning. If we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Introductions?
Dave Hurst.
John Walston.
Robert Tejan.
Jody Monroe, Holly Dellenbaum,
Ewan McLean.
Lauren Grasso.
and Catherine Nadeau and Meredith Moriarty are not able to be here tonight. And John McPhillips is also not with us tonight. First up is our approval of minutes. It is recommended that by the superintendent that the Board of Education approve the minutes from the July 1st, 2025 organizational board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. And then next is our superintendent's report.
Sure, thank you. Just a couple of notes regarding the beginning of the school year. So we are preparing for the start of the new school year. Schedules and teacher assignments will be posted this Friday, August 15th, for students and parents. Counselors at the middle and high school do return next week, so any questions parents or students may have should be able to connect with them at that time. We also will be sending out back-to-school information in the coming weeks. I encourage all parents to review the materials carefully. There are a few updates to our attendance policy that was approved by the Board of Education last spring that families should be aware of. And I'd also like to express my sincere appreciation to our operations and maintenance department, our custodians, their hard work this summer, often in some very high temperatures, to work and ensure classrooms and spaces are ready to welcome students and staff for the year ahead. So I'd like to thank them. I also wanted just to provide a quick update. This year, at the start of the year, we have a committee formed to review the elementary zones of attendance. We had a very brief meeting with not all of the committee, but some of the committee at the end of the school year. It was disrupted from power outages. It was during that week that was very hot, so we didn't have a long meeting. But a couple of weeks ago, the district admin team met with the consultants and Tyler Technologies to just review process. The two consultants were on site today. They went to all of our elementary schools with the facilities, reviewed all the facilities, met with the principals to go over any spaces they had questions about. I met with them today to go over the current elementary zones with transportation, and then we also have the maps a year or so ago that the town provided us that had the updates with the expected building development in the different areas. So they're basically collecting data. They're looking at our enrollment trends, demographic data. Our first meeting with the committee will be, I believe it's September 10th. And we'll be really going through the process that we'll be taking with the consultants and Tyler Technologies. What does that look like going through the elementary zones facilities? They're going to do a couple of different analysis with the data on the different class sizes. So I basically gave them the guidance we've been currently using since the pandemic, where our class sizes have been smaller. What does that look like for the number of classrooms each building will have, and then how does that affect the enrollment? And then also to do a secondary analysis of, if class sizes are this, what would that look like? So that way it provides us with some options. So it was a good meeting today. They're going to follow up with additional information. We have to get them some good data on a couple of different areas, and then we'll be ready to go in September. So we have a monthly meeting with the committee that is generally a week or so before each board meeting, and then we'll do an update to the board with the goal of final recommendations coming to the board for the December meeting. I did tentatively schedule on the board schedule if we needed a follow-up meeting in January. The goal, obviously, and ideally, it would be better if we had it in December because registration starts in January, but if we needed to go into January for any follow-up, we can. So that's where we are with that process. So I just want to provide an update.
Great.
So that's all I have for tonight.
Anybody have any questions? Next up is the board report, and also thinking about the beginning of the year, September 2nd is opening day. And just a reminder to board members who would like to attend the opening day, we call it assembly? Celebration is 8 a.m., correct? I'm looking at you to make sure I'm
Yes,
saying the right
8 a.m.
time.
Yep.
On the second?
On the 2nd.
Yep.
Here at the high school. And so if anybody wants to attend, that is when that's happening. And then on October 16th, NYSBA is having its annual business meeting. And as usual, they are looking for a board delegate to participate. If anybody is interested, let me know. And then the other information I just wanted to share is that there was a new state law that was signed recently called DSHA's Law that requires school districts to include cardiac emergency response plans in all district-wide comprehensive safety plans. So that will be part of our district-wide safety plans going forward.
Yeah, Jen Dennis actually put together a draft based on the requirements. I'm meeting with her tomorrow to go over it, and then we'll review it with all of our administrators for the buildings. So, Nick, though, I don't think they put that in place late, and it says
Yeah.
it has to be part of the safety plans, but I think on the state ed site, there isn't any place to include that, is there? Right, correct.
Yeah, and some provisions are effective right away, and others are not until 2026.
Right.
But I know this is the time of year where we usually start doing updates to those things, so.
Excuse me, if I may.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're aware, but we're well set as far as having the devices. We don't need to, at this point, purchase anymore. We have 34 AEDs throughout the district, strategically located, and all the administrators of the buildings are aware of where they are. And we just purchased more last year. So,
And we have portable as well.
yeah, we're in really good shape.
I assume we also have people trained in how to use them.
Correct.
Anybody have anything else they wanted to add or share?
Okay.
Next are presentations this evening, and we have two. The first is on setting the final tax rate for our fall 2025 school tax bills.
Are you have minutes for me, or is it over here?
Jody, you gotta turn the mic on.
Good? All right. So I'm stepping in for John tonight, so don't ask me any really difficult questions, because if you do, I'm probably going to have to defer to him when he comes back. So this is a pretty typical presentation. We're setting the tax rates for this evening, and I want to begin by just reviewing the fund balance. So if you remember back in July, the board authorized certain dollar amounts to be allocated to the fund balance once the closeout had happened. So this is just a summary of where those funds ended up. And you can see one of the areas that we anticipated, not on this slide, but in the capital reserve fund in the bus purchase reserve, we originally thought that we would be allocating some funds into those reserves. However, one of our state aid payments related to the last capital bond, if you remember, we had to get that all in by December 31st. And I know John said Nick and him worked really diligently to get it done, but we didn't receive the state aid payment for that, so that won't flow to us until September. So technically, that has to then be accounted for in this coming year's budget. So we'll probably have a higher revenue for state aid this year than we did. So we may end up putting more in those reserves at the end of next year. But that's why Originally, John had presented with dollars going to each of those, but they're not in there now. The other thing I wanted to point out is with the undesignated fund balance, we had discussed the reserves and the 4% cap. This dollar amount in here, 6.997, does reflect higher than a 4% reserve. I just wanted to bring that to the board's attention. We did that. It will be flagged when we have an audit, but it's something that we felt was important to do given some of the uncertainty that we are anticipating. Just a quick review, the tax levy, the tax rate, and the tax cap. These are the three areas that is determined as to what makes up an individual homeowner's taxes, and only one of them is determined by the school district, and that is the tax levy. So this just reflects our tax levy history. This past year, for 2025-26, the maximum allowable levy was 1.12%, and we did go to that threshold. You can see for many years we have been well below what the Mattel is or what we were allowed to raise taxes for. Some of the economic indicators, just to reflect on what the increases have been over the last years, obviously home values, adjusted gross incomes, and tax levies. And as a visual, your home and how is this seen by not only you, but your lender, the assessors, and all of the people that weigh in on what the value of your homes are. We need to update that picture. So the final tax rates are 64% for Bethlehem, 65% for the town of New Scotland, and this essentially results in a $6 increase per $100,000 of assessed value for Bethlehem, and it results in a $60 decrease per $100,000 assessed value for the town of New Scotland. And for the public library, again, the equalization rates play a factor in their final rates as well. And for Bethlehem, they will see an increase of $2 per $100,000, and New Scotland would see a $2 decrease for that amount. And just to, this is a great visual, I think, to show how the equalization rates actually impact each town. You can see that you have an example of the full market value of a home in each of the towns, how the equalization rate is applied with the assessed value and the tax rates, and what the total taxes due are, which is in effect what the impact is in the results of the equalization rates. So there are three ways to pay your taxes. Once you get your bill, you can do it by mail if you like. You can also pay your taxes in person at Pioneer Bank, or you can pay taxes online. And there are fees associated with the online payments. I know that that comes up every year, so I just want to make sure people are aware that there's fees, just like with most debit card, credit card transactions. And this is a sample school tax bill. Individuals should be receiving this at the end of August, and the rates will be reflected on their bills. So they should receive it by early September if they're mailed out in late August. I know there's been some questions about timing on that in the past. And we do have a dedicated phone line for individuals if you have questions about your taxes at 518-694-3949. Michelle Curtis, who has been in the district for a long time, is continuing to be the collector here, and she can answer all of their questions if need be. She's also available by email if you prefer that. And that's my very quick presentation on the tax cap, tax levy. But does anyone have questions about them?
Thanks, John.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay. Next presentation will be much more exciting than that.
So we have our second presentation tonight is on our future bond project plans.
Good evening.
Turn it over to Nick.
Okay, so this presentation is an update to the June 18th presentation that I had previously given. I'll try to do this quickly. I don't know if I'll get through it as quickly as Jody did. I'll go through these slides and I'll just show you the updates. We amended this slide to show that the December 2nd is our proposed public vote for the referendum for this project. The next slide shows where we ended up here. We're right on track with where I was last time. Last time was 139 proposed elements. We're at 138. We moved some things around, but nothing major was added or subtracted. Again, all these elements are high priority. They support our district mission and our goals, and we as in Turner Construction performed a comprehensive review of all of our scope elements and provided us with a really good estimate. And currently our estimate for those 138 project scope elements is $57.4 million. We had a target goal of $60 million, so we're in really good shape. This next slide is I want to say more for the public. It's for everybody, but this kind of summarizes what we're doing in each building, how many dollars we're spending, and the percentage associated with the total $57.4 million. And we'll get to a little more detail in the future here. This slide breaks it down by the building. These are all the elementary buildings. I do not want to go through them each separately. This has been published on several occasions. It was published today on School Front? Parent Square, excuse me, I'm sorry. So this has gone out. This does reflect the scope elements list that I've been providing to the Board of Education and the administration all along. I'll get into some highlights here momentarily. Next slide is the high school and middle school, our secondary schools, transportation and operations and maintenance. We have a couple of items at transportation and at O&M that we feel need to be completed in this project. So I'll go over a couple of the key project elements, things that are not just big dollar, but have a big impact on Bethlehem School District. The first one is what we've discussed a lot, is the potential air conditioning to improve the teaching and learning spaces. This slide, don't pay attention to the picture. It was a cool picture of the type of systems that we plan on installing, variable refrigerant heat pumps, but it breaks it down and shows briefly what we're doing at each building. Eagle, cafeteria and gymnasium, all the buildings, all school district buildings, it will be the common spaces. If they don't already have air conditioning, the gymnasiums, cafeterias, library media centers, and then the 3 buildings that are known hotspots that have second floors, which are the high school, middle school, and Ellesmere, are all proposed to get air conditioning. We did put the numbers of classrooms that are affected, just so that folks could understand. We're going to hit 38 classrooms at the high school, which is a really good shot at getting this building air conditioned. Again, Hammergrill and Glenmont, their gymnasiums are already air conditioned. Middle schools, LMC, high schools, LMC are already air conditioned. Okay. Another featured element is, and it's the big theme, is our elementary classrooms. We have a lot of classrooms at our primary schools, at the elementary schools, that are in need of renovation or modernization. They're 70s vintage, built in the 50s, but last time they were touched is probably in the 70s or 80s. This includes Ellesmere, Glenmont, Hammergrill, and Slingerlands. Eagle is our newest. There's no renovations required to modernize the classrooms. When I say modernize, we're going to improve the floors, ceilings, lights, the casework, and the finishes. So in a nutshell, it's going to get a paint job and spruced up. We already have the new furniture, and we need to make the space match the new furniture. The big struggle or challenges are doing these classrooms. There's several in each building. Glenmont has the entire 5th grade wing that's proposed. We have challenges, and those challenges are we don't, as a district, have swing space. I know we talked about this before. The swing space, what I'm referring to, is a place to put the students while we're doing the construction. All right, it's not possible in a 2-year project to do this in 2 months over the summer. Okay, so we have alternate alternative solutions. We don't know yet, so I can't guarantee it. It depends on the contractor and the workforce at the time. Can we get second shift or double shifts and weekend work out of them to make the project progress rapidly or more rapidly? A more logical would be to temporarily relocate the classes to other areas of the building. For example, we've had conversations with the principals, could we take half a gym, put 3 or 4 classrooms and a half a gymnasium temporarily while we extend either at the beginning of the school year or deeper into the end of the school year to complete the construction. All right, so those are things that we've offered. The other option is to move some of the students to other school buildings that do have space. All right, and then obviously we could do portable classrooms, but they are cost prohibitive, and again, they're very challenging to get through state education department. So we are working to determine, as Jody had mentioned, we do have the zoning that she mentioned for the fall here, and that could impact some of our decision making, and we're going to take that into consideration. Our other considerations are impact to transportation. Again, we would need to make a decision on phasing. We're working with our construction manager. Again, right now they're doing our estimating, not really our phasing and planning, because we haven't hired them to do that yet. But we've kind of asked them, and they've agreed. They'll plug it into their program. They have a software program, and they can give us a general idea. Is this going to fit into a 2-year, a 3-year construction project? And can we do certain areas just by extending possibly a month into the beginning or the end of the school year? I prefer cutting in at the end of the school year because the students are already acclimated, they know what they're doing. A little bit of change at the end of the year is a little easier to handle than starting the school year, starting the school year and then stopping and getting rerouted and all these things. So those are some of the considerations. Do we extend it into the fall or into the spring? And what is that duration of the impact? And we're working on that, not as we speak, but diligently right now. Again, I mentioned the contractor workforce. We're still struggling with that. We've talked to Turner Construction, looking at projects that are currently going on in other districts. They are struggling to get the folks to work double shifts and extra hours, so that's going to impact this. And then I had mentioned the extension of the project schedule. If we have to do more than 2 summers, of course the cost goes up. So we are looking at this in all angles, and we'll come up with something and have a plan. And when I say a plan, it won't be a definitive plan because we won't know who the contractors are, et cetera. But a good idea of these answers. Will it be a 2-year, a 3-year, and what are our options as far as shuffling folks within the building or potentially to the other parts of the district? Okay. Is there any questions on that real quickly? Okay. I'll keep moving along. Okay, other elements, our cafetorium or gymnasium at Hammergrell is dated. If you look at the wall colors, I would love to know who picked those, but so we want to upgrade that. Additionally, the floor is due for sanding and refinishing to meet the needs. We've removed all the things off the wall that don't belong there and some storage closets and maximize the space for the students for the cafeteria and the gymnasium. And that would include the stage, refinishing the stage front and the floors, bringing it back to its original look. Additionally, at Hammergrell, the main office, currently there is no conference room to support the principal and his staff, and it's very crammed in there, and we'd like to expand that to include a conference room. At Slingerland's, this was, if you recall, pulled out of the last bond project due to, again, it was the phasing and logistics. We couldn't do both at once, doing the classrooms. We had no place to move the kitchen to. So we're looking at upgrading the kitchen area with the new appliances, a full renovation in there. And additionally, the cafeteria, which was a gymnasium that got semi-converted to a cafeteria. The wood floor is underneath, and you can still tell because all the floor tile is cracked because the floor is moving. All right, so we definitely wanted to make that a priority. One highlight here is that that would include a new walk-in cooler and freezer in support of our food service program due to the, I guess, it's the free lunch program that started. So we need more freezer space at the elementaries. Okay. High school currently, in the last bond, we didn't incorporate, 2016 bond, when we did the auditorium, we didn't incorporate storage space for it. These photos show kind of our storage currently, which is not great. We need to enhance our storage for, these are real pictures, folks. It's really in need. So we're gonna create existing space and convert it to theater and music dedicated storage space. And then we've got our infrastructure items that, aren't great for the public to see. They don't see most of this, the roofs. We've got roof replacements, select roof replacements at Eagle, Slingerlands Middle School and High School. And of course, they're out of warranty, and we do have some leaks that we are consistently repairing. And of course, it improves the envelope and increases energy efficiency. Additionally, we weren't able to fit the high school bus parking lot and the high school faculty parking lot into the last bond. So we plan on doing it in this bond. Same with Eagle and operations and maintenance. So the last 3 parking lots will have all of our parking lots been renovated in the past 8 years. Again, more infrastructure, fire alarm system replacements at Ellesmere, Glenmont, Hammergrill, Slingerlands, and the middle school. And the reason that these are all included is the high school got their new fire alarm system in the last bond, and we want to get the enhanced features, the voice communication, the blue lights for those that suffer from hearing loss, etc. So the middle school is in dire need of a fire alarm upgrade, as are all the other buildings. We're not doing them just to do them, but we need to get those enhanced features. And at the high school, we determined that our PA announcing system, public announcing system, is 30 years old and is beyond its useful life, and we're recommending that replacement. Also at the high school, our D-wing elevator, the one right over here, when we did our fire alarm system, it does not have the electronics on board to accept our new fire alarm integration. So we need to modernize the elevator, and if you recall, we did a capital outlay project at the middle school and have done this before. Then that will be up to code. And then Ellesmere and Slingerlands, our last 2 boiler plants that need to be replaced to improve our efficiency and our reliability in our heating. And then over at Transportation, Bay 7 is our DOT inspection bay, and Brian and I are currently struggling with our inspectors on keeping that lift operational. It's got some issues that are causing it to fail on a regular basis, and it's due for replacement. Okay. So we have an update or a change that we're proposing to the Board of Education regarding our Bethlehem High School D-wing bathrooms. And I think that anybody in this room has used the facilities across the hall. This is the corner that you're seeing in this slide that we're talking about. So it would be both the student and faculty bathrooms. And this is there a laser on this guy? This is, if you look, yeah, I can't do it. But currently, we've got 2 faculty bathrooms that are dissected by a custodial closet where we store our materials, and we have our custodial sink. And then we have 2 multi-fixture bathrooms, 1 boys, 1 girls. All right, so what the team is recommending is we convert from open multi-fixture bathrooms to multiple single-use bathrooms. And this slide is kind of what that corner could look like. All right, and that would include faculty and student bathrooms. Going from the multi-fixture, they're known as gang bathrooms, which is a really bad terminology, but to the single use. This is working very well in other districts, according to Turner and our architects. And what it's going to provide for is a bigger space for our janitorial, because we have a hard time with our supplies and everything, but it enhances our ADA, our access. It gives us bottle filling stations, and then there's, if you look at that, will be protected, it's a L shape there. We can protect that with cameras, so it really has no effect on our ability to control the bathrooms, but it adds more comfort to the students. So I want to jump back and say, make sure I don't miss anything, but the janitorial space and then the bottle filling stations, we could fit in art display space, which I know that the art department would love since it's adjacent to the art rooms, and future utility space there down in the right-hand corner. And that's when we talk about air conditioning, the first floor, that would be our chase or our route to get down. Excuse me. So what I wanted to do is just see what the Board of Education felt about this. When we discussed it in our OACM meetings or with our administration, we thought it was a good idea. We believed that it would be well received by our faculty and staff, and it would actually, it would not increase our cost. It would not increase the cost of.
It
Now,
looks like, does it increase capacity?
it does. It actually
more
increases.
We actually get more.
It looks like you get
Right.
more spaces.
So the last, in the female restroom, we have, I'm having a hard time seeing it from way back here, but we have 3 water closets or toilets. And as you can see with this single use, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 proposed. So it increases our fixture count. And what we've been realizing is that the students really like these single use. It just seems more comfortable for them and more private. All right. So knowing that it wouldn't increase, we wanted to bring this in front of the board and say, instead of just renovating the bathrooms, we'd like to propose a change. And this would be for both the first and second floor. They're stacked. We can't do the second floor without doing the first floor, but we're asking if it's okay to proceed in this direction.
Do you want feedback now, or do you want to wait?
It
till
would
the
be
end?
great. It would be great
Okay.
if you wanted to,
I
and then
mean,
we don't.
I think it's a great idea, one, because it increases capacity, and also, I mean, you're totally right that, in my experience, the kids prefer these single occupancy bathrooms, and for a whole variety of reasons. And I also wonder whether it would help with addressing some vaping concerns that we've had in our bathrooms.
One.
Well, right now, if you have an issue in a bathroom, we have cameras outside, but you can't tell who's doing what in the bathroom, because there could be 4 people in there at a time, right? Right, this way.
You could have, one of the things we've discussed with vaping is they make vape detectors.
Yeah.
Yes, I was just,
The problem with that is, in what some schools who've put them in, it goes off, but if there's 5 people in the bathroom, you have no idea who was vaping.
Yeah.
And these, if we wanted to install vape detectors, you put them in single use, and you have cameras outside.
Yeah.
If it goes off.
You can tell they're walking.
it
can
can't
tell
be
who
anyone
was
else but that person in
Right.
there.
It also, many kids don't like to go in the bathrooms with multiple people because of vaping, and that would eliminate some of those issues that
That's
kids
true.
have.
Because you're not in there with another.
Right.
And it also looks like, if I'm looking at the pictures, it looks like there's maybe more ADA compliant
yes.
space.
Yes, and we would, again, this is a concept, because of course we don't want to get too
Sure.
deep if it wasn't something we were interested in, but we actually have too many. And when I say that, not too, we meet the requirement. This drawing shows that we exceeded, and we would assess that more deeply and see how do we maximize the number of single-use regular student fixtures, and then ADA, and the same with faculty. We made a joke, we'll let the faculty choose which bathrooms they want to be theirs. If we want to proceed down this, it does not increase the cost, that is included. So we just
I don't know
need,
if anybody else has
Sounds like a
thoughts.
great idea.
Yeah, great idea.
Great idea. I'm on board.
and lastly, we did discuss the vape monitoring, the camera protection, and door hardware, with the, vacant and not vacant.
Oh,
Or
okay.
occupied, vacant, not vacant, vacant and occupied sensors on there, not just these regular, and you got to knock and hello. So that will all be taken into consideration. All right, perfect, thank you. The next one is a change. Again, this was a scope element, all right? And what the label of the scope element was to increase practice space for the wrestling program and add a physical education space or a multi-purpose room in the basement, or what we call the pit at the middle school. And we looked into this, and of course, once we started delving into it, you know, there's more that we can do. All right, so originally it was we were going to put some pads on the walls, we were going to add some additional lighting, put some more wrestling mats down. We were going to do that in the district, but we could not do that in our operating budget. Then we talked about doing the basics with the bond project, so that's why the line item was included. I don't want to pick on the architects, but you know, they see this vision like, and I'll start my spiel here real quickly, but there's 6,000 square feet that's shown in the colored area here. And less than half of that is currently outfitted to carry any program down there. We have 1.5 wrestling rooms, and it's a very large space. If you look at the center, that is an actual photo of the third bay over. So it's a big open space that we do not currently utilize for program. We do have after-school programs here and there, but those kind of went by the wayside. They put some ping pong tables down there. If it's raining out, they may have PE go down there and do things that they can do in that space. So we want to enhance that space. So this renovation is needed to support our growing girls and boys wrestling programs, our PE programs, wellness, strength and fitness. We have a relatively new strength and fitness coordinator. And then we talked about, but we'd get there if this is approved, that, you know, it could be serve the public as well if we wanted to do that, similar to our pools, but that's down the road. Again, after detailed discussion and assessment from our original concept, we think that we can do a little bit more because we had challenges with our original concept. So we are asking for authorization to proceed in that direction. It will increase the dollar amount for this line item. We want to include the hallway that's at the top of that right-hand picture. Again, I don't have my laser on, but that hallway is kind of, right now, it's ad hoc. There's 4 or 5 different doorways that the doors have been removed. It's not a good sight line, and you kind of lose the students when they go down there, so it's hard to keep track of them. So we want to improve our sight lines. We want to remove a stairwell that currently serves no purpose, and it sticks out into one of the bays that would potentially become the PE and fitness room. So that costs more money to infill that so that we can expand that. One thing I do want to, I did use the wrong photo on the right. It shows single-use bathrooms there, and we've opted to not go in that direction. The bathrooms are renovated on another line item. If this is not approved, we're still doing those bathrooms, but we're going to keep the multi-fixture bathrooms and use it like a natatorium where you can have a little changing spot. So if students come from a different building and they come through the main entrance, they have a place to go change into their workout gear or their wrestling gear, and in a bathroom closed space, because we don't have team rooms, separate gender team rooms. So that is, I grabbed the wrong photo when I stuck it on there and just noticed. All right, so the hallway, and then we would improve the entrances for our sight lines. The entrance from the hallway in and from the outside in, so that we have a little spot there where we can have our person checking in or the supervision of the students. And as I said, this would increase the overall cost of that line item. However, we would still be below our $60 million. So an order of magnitude, it wouldn't be $100,000, it would be several $100,000. So do we go down that path? And our recommendation is that we do, because we want to recover that space and its prime space. Some of the concerns are, well, it's a practice facility, but if you talk with our athletics director, our wrestling program really, I'll use the term exploded, and we have a huge interest in it. We also brought on the girls wrestling team, and we need additional wrestling practice space. We do all of our wrestling meets, matches at the high school, And one of the reasons that this is really important is when we don't have a permanent practice space for the wrestling program, the students are, part of their wrestling practice is to roll the mats out, disinfect them, then do their workout or whatever they're doing, then clean the mats, roll them back up. So we're actually losing practice time. These are dedicated spaces. The mats are always on the floor. And on that, if you look closely, we have a clean area where they keep their stuff. They just do their cleaning and they're out of there. So it actually enhances the program. So what this really does is the 2 boxes on the left that are already orange are currently have wrestling mats and are all fit up with the exception of the ceiling and the lighting. The next two to the right, the orange and gray, both of those orange and gray, those are the 2 spaces that we really need to focus on to create that PE space. In working with the athletic director and a PE supervisor, our current weight room at the middle school is very, very small. It's a very long and thin space, so it's hard to get our cardio machines, our ellipticals, our treadmills, rowing machines, and our free weights and weight machines like universals in that space. This has been kicked around for at least 5 years now, and we thought this was an opportunity to act on it. The PE and athletics folks, they want to make the right-hand one, the gray one, that multi-purpose. That's where we want to move the free weights and the weightlifting machines to, keeping the cardio in the existing space because it's kind of made for that. It's long and thin, you can have opposing. So we're looking for some guidance from the board and from our administration. Do we want to go down this path and spend a little more money and get a better product?
And you're saying the increase in cost would be a few $100,000?
It would be
maybe?
several $100,000. yes.
Several, like 300, 400?
I'm trying to guess.
Yeah.
We need to get finite numbers. We can do a guesstimate, but I can actually ask our construction manager to incorporate it into an estimate and see what they come up with.
I think that would be helpful
Okay?
to know.
I have a bunch of questions on different things. Do you want them as we go, or do you want them at the end?
I think,
Well,
sounds like right
we're
now
nearing
you're
the
looking
end.
at
Like,
this.
I've got one, this is the last real slide, and I just got a couple of speaking points that I wanted to bring forward, so I'm ready if you are.
Nick, just one question
Sure.
on this before you take other questions. Is it currently ADA accessible, this whole area now? Because I know when we met, you talked about the hallway and the stairs jutting out. I mean, I didn't know if there's an issue with
Right.
ADA access or no.
So there is an issue with ADA access. It is currently not accessible.
That's what I was
Okay.
wondering.
It
That's
is
a problem.
currently not.
So, did you have any questions, Ewan, on this issue in particular?
No.
No, okay. The one other question I had, and this is just because I don't know, are those spaces, if they're outfitted for wrestling, if it's not wrestling season, can they be used for other things? Like, can you
Absolutely.
do, I don't know,
Yeah, do the
yoga?
mats come up? I know.
Yoga
they're-
on a wrestling mat, or?
They're fitted to the space. They could come up, but we did discuss that when we had our stakeholder meeting with the AD and the PE supervisor. You mentioned one of them, yoga, jazzercise, I guess,
I'm
or
thinking
something.
also some of the adult continuing education.
Yeah.
Adult continuing ed could use it, although, could also be used for the other space, the wrestling areas, aside from the fitness space, could be used for some of the PE activities
Yeah.
as well during the school day.
Okay.
Yoga, some of the other things that are impactful, obviously,
Like
to the floor.
stretching.
Gymnastics, tumbling, things like that.
Okay.
And just so
curious.
I know for a fact, because while we were there doing assessments, that we had some inclement weather. They played dodgeball in these spaces, things like that to keep the kids active and do their PE. It may not necessarily be programmed, but it's to keep the kids going. But the answer to your question is yes. You can.
Okay.
It will have a wrestling mat on the floor, but as long as we're not wearing cleats, you can do pretty much whatever you want in there.
Okay. So would it be helpful in maybe the next meeting if we can get the numbers to say, here's what the original numbers were, and with this change, here's the different, so the
Yeah, I
board's
think
aware
so.
of
'Cause
that.
I think it sounds good, but before I say, great,
Yeah,
let's
it's
do it,
$2
I'd love to know,
million. Yeah.
is it an additional $100,000 or an additional 8?
Okay. And
I mean-
we also had some unknowns that I learned, and I got the answers to yesterday, so I don't want to misspeak.
Sure.
It is the intent, we don't have to buy all new equipment. It was to transfer the equipment, that was an unknown. So I can give these answers to our estimating team, and I can get that.
Great.
But my caveat to this is, if we don't proceed with what I'll call the enhanced version, the architected version, I don't want to dismiss that as a scope element, because we do still have that need. It may not be the Taj Mahal, which we're not building, but it may not be perfect, but we still need to have that additional wrestling space.
Sure.
And that is included currently in our line item, so that wouldn't be an additional cost.
Sure.
Okay? Any other questions on the middle school?
Why don't we, if you want to finish up, and
Finish
then
up,
I'm
yeah.
sure there'll be,
Okay, and my last two items, quickly. So we talked about our air conditioning, and it's a little difficult because there's so many things we need to do in our buildings, all right? And one of those was we want to air condition the second floors. If you recall, they have 14-foot high ceilings, so we are bringing the ceilings down to a relatively 9-foot level, I was going to say normal, but a 9-foot level that SED requires. That will keep us from having to treat that other 6 feet of space for no reason. And then we started talking about our envelope and our energy conservation efforts. Ellesmere is one of our oldest buildings, as well as the middle school original main building, the front, where we're talking about this air conditioning. So we talked about, is there anything we can do to make that better? And I'm using the term envelope. That would be your walls, your ceiling, and where your roof attaches to your walls. We had much conversation about this, that we are, I'll be candid, we're late in the game to try to roll this out. All right, we're always considering our efficiencies and everything, but we feel that we'd be remiss if we didn't think about this when we do Ellesmere in the middle school. If we can do something simple to enhance our envelope at a minimal cost, this would be like putting insulation on the inside of the walls, taking the unit ventilators out and get those holes in the building so that we're not losing heat or gaining heat. All right, so we're considering looking at this, and if we can fit it in there, saying, hey, we're going to be doing this anyway, it'll reduce the size of the air conditioning that we need, long-term, reduce how much money we spend to air condition said space. I do it every time. I lost my train of thought. So we're considering that for Ellesmere and the middle school, all right? And I can report out on that because we need a little further along, okay? We need an assessment. We're not considering that at the high school because if you look, it's all windows, and we already know that that would blow our budget, like way out of the water, all right? So, and we need to spend a little more time figuring out how do we enhance the envelope at the high school when the majority of the wall is a window and we need to maintain that natural light. So that all falls into, I wanted to give you a heads up that next report, we may have some ideas that I would like to present to you and to the board that says, hey, we'd like to spend an extra $80,000 or whatever it could be to fur out the walls at Ellesmere. It's 5 classrooms. It makes sense, and here's the benefit of it. So we also discussed and wanted to see if the board would entertain enlisting an energy consulting firm to perform an energy audit at the district. Okay? And this is hot off the press because we talked about that when we were talking about Ellesmere and Glenmont. I think that we would be remiss if we didn't do that because we could use it as a guide to move forward in this bond and in future bonds. Because, in future bonds, we plan on doing, or we appear to plan on doing more air conditioning of the first floors or other areas. And we want to maximize our efficiencies associated with the proposed air conditioning. So I also do not have an exact amount on that. They normally do it per square foot. We're at about 1 million square feet. I can get numbers on that. If the board would like me to entertain that, I can solicit proposals and provide a recommendation at the September meeting, that we do a full-blown energy audit of the district, specifically the school buildings.
Would that be an RFP now?
It would.
Oh.
It would be an RFP. I'm going to find out how much, ballpark that they're talking, because one of the things that we can do is we do have vendors that are under state contract to do that we do business with, and that may fall under one of the state contract items that I wouldn't have to do an RFP. I would certainly get more than one bid, but talk to these folks and see what we could do. That would be, thermography at the exterior of the building, find out where the holes are. That gives our architects and engineers some ideas of where to go to for the future. If we don't do it this bond, I would recommend we do that prior to the next bond, because we need to focus on some of those efficiencies if we're going to air condition the entire buildings.
I'd be interested to know how much it would cost.
And I could certainly do
At
that,
least
have
approximate.
it available. And again, I can give you numbers. It can go anywhere from $30,000 to $120,000. Depends on what we ask for. When I say thermography, they could also do roof scans. I would say we don't need the roof scans. We already know what roofs are failed and so on, things like that. But they get into looking at every electrical panel, looking for hot spots. I think it's important to determine whether our building automation system is functioning or optimized. I think we're due for a recommissioning, which is a service that they would recommend. And what I mean by that is, yes, we have all these sensors and all these things that are cool that make our stuff turn on and off, but is it optimized? And that's not routine maintenance. That's where they come in and focus and recommission our existing systems and make recommendations to enhance it for energy savings. Right now it's really, I think I've said it once before, we do all this stuff, but our bills never go down. So we're trying to maintain,
Well,
keep our head above water.
An approximate cost, and maybe you can find out whether we would need to do an RFP or whether just a
Absolutely.
little bit more information would be great.
Absolutely. And again, this was hot off the press because we really hemmed and hawed, like we really should try to do that. And there's no loss associated with it, because if we don't do anything with it, we internally can fix the things that they find that we can out of operating as a minimum. They're going to point it out. Okay, right there. Lastly, this is, again, just a review of the timeline, a December 2nd vote, and a projected, if we're approved, a spring 2027 construction date. Are there any questions?
I'm sure there's some questions. I have a couple, but you and I know you have some.
Sure. My guess is that many of these you're not going to be able to answer right now. But the big overarching thing is more detail, please. I've seen the scope list, where it says 9 classroom renovations, 2.4 million.
Mm-hmm.
You just described it as a paint job. If I'm not holding you to that quote, but if it's roughly 200,000, which is what it looks like to renovate each classroom, what exactly are we getting for that 200,000?
Okay.
What level of breakdown do you have available?
Again, so I generalize that, and there, I'll pick Glenmont and I'll pick Slingerlands. Okay, Slingerlands, the floors are done, the ceiling needs to come down, it needs a paint job, and it needs new casework. Casework is the countertops with the sinks that are typically in elementary classrooms. Glenmont has an issue that it was built in the 50s, and we have to literally take it down, take the walls out to the studs and put the walls back because they use some material that is failing and we can't adhere anything over top of it, right? And that's why we pulled it from the last bond project. So I had to generalize it because not every one of them is the same, but if you look at the volume of the classrooms and what each element is, and right now we have a cost per square foot, and then we have to add, again, at Hammer Grill, the classrooms, there's abatement that needs to be done, so we have to incorporate that. So it's really not easy to just say, I mean, if you actually wanted me to do. I could break it down by classroom by classroom by classroom. But as a minimum, every classroom will get ceilings, lighting, window treatments, finishes, which would be the walls, the painting of the ceiling or the walls, and casework. Casework, and each one of them is different. The elementary classrooms at Hammergrill are from one wall to the other. At Hammergrill, their cubbies where the students store their coats and boots are inside the classroom. However, they were used as the air plenum for the return air going through up to the rooftop unit. That needs to be fixed. That's not okay. So each one of them is different. But those are the minimum things.
So when I look at the scope list, yeah, I see that level of detail. What do you currently have available on your end? Like, what could you send me right now in terms of how far it's broken down? So for instance, there's a line item, high school art room, D225, $400,000 to renovate that room, which is more than the cost of my house. What do you see on your end in terms of what that $400,000 actually buys us?
Okay, again, we have to abate the floor, put a new floor in, all new casework, lighting, and we have specialized lighting because it's an art room.
I think the question is that memorialized anyway?
In
Right.
writing.
Do you have that
Oh.
spreadsheet detail someplace?
I do.
And if so, can you please send it to us?
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
We can put
Yeah,
it in
it's-
the updates.
I can't tell from this.
Okay, yes,
What's the-
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
maybe I was missing, all
We
right.
have, when we do have the facilities committee, we have more detail, that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, okay.
So we could put that in the
Put in the
update.
updates.
Yeah, I don't know if it's current based on some of the changes, so either this week or next week, we can put it in the updates. Is that reasonable, Nick?
Yeah, I'm just thinking through how, because one of my sheets just breaks it down by prime contractor. Or, Eagle, it's X
Right.
amount of dollars for the general contractor, X for the plumber.
Right.
I'm making sure I'm not lying to you. But on that scope list that you saw, the colored one,
Yes.
that has all the cool colors, that's just the scope elements and the cost. To the right of that, on my sheets, has
The detail.
everything you need to know about that.
Okay, good.
How much each one of them, so breakdown.
Because
Got it.
to be honest, there's a lot of stuff that sends alarm bells ringing for me in terms of cost, but I'm not a contractor, right? I don't.
Right. Welcome to America.
Sure. $2 million to renovate one high school computer lab. Are we putting a cray in there? Like, this seems
There's
amazing.
not one, no.
No, there's a bunch of, they're the tech rooms, so it's not just one.
But it's not 2 million.
Yeah, but-
It is. Another $2 million for renovation of the kitchen. There's a couple of, yes, the high
Yeah.
school cafeteria, Slingham's cafeteria is $2 million. The computer labs I could find for you, but it is $2 million.
Well, then that's a mistake.
So you're just looking, you want to see the
The
breakdown?
the
Right, I
detail.
know what it's like.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, if that says 2 million.
Computer
that's-
lab renovations, new finishes and window lines, $2 million. That's what it says. High school AP3.
That's not correct. It's not correct.
So there's a lot of that kind of stuff I'd really like to see, what the money's
Okay.
looking at.
Okay.
Fire alarms. Are we currently meeting code?
Yes.
But you want to upgrade to a super code system?
It's not super code. It's enhancing, the middle school, we have replaced the, we've spent thousands on corrective actions and we have nuisance alarms, and because it's been expanded, it was similar to the high school. And it's due for replacement because we do have components, motherboards that are no longer available,
Mhm.
that are failing. So it's beyond its useful life, it's due for replacement. Now, the elementary schools, I'll use Glenmont. The gym teacher suffers from hearing loss.
Yep.
Currently, we have,
Did.
Currently, we had our own ad hoc lighting system in there. And we want to be consistent district-wide so we don't have to do these fire drills to accommodate folks that have needs. So we want to upgrade all these so that they're good for now and the future.
Is that kind of stuff in the scope sheet you're going to send?
Yes, it is. Every single line item is in that.
Excellent. It might be easier for me to save questions until after that. I don't know. There are a couple more examples. Sure, I'll throw them out. There's a lot of doors being replaced.
Yeah.
What causes doors to need to be replaced? Just age or?
Well, the pool doors at the high school are failed because they are the wrong material when they were installed. It's similar to the ones that we had the sea wing entrance, the gym entrance, and so on. The ones at, I'm going to do this off the top of my
Sure.
head, the ones at Ellesmere, for example, and Slingerland's, the gymnasium doors and the cafeteria doors have wire glazing that are no longer approved by code. So they're not fire rated, and you can't lock them. So if we have an incident in the school, you cannot lock the gym, cafeteria, and LMC doors at Slingerland's or Ellesmere.
Mhm.
So it's a security enhancement.
Also, some don't have the proper order like the SEDs require,
Yeah.
and some of the interiors. They're building original doors. At the time, it was fine with SED, now it's not required.
Right.
There's things like that.
Things change over time.
Sure.
Yeah.
Find out. What's the general rule for things like that? Like, is the school grandfathered in for stuff we installed that did meet code then? Or is it when the code changes, we have to update to be legal?
Well, I got to understand your question. So when they were installed,
Yep.
the code said, sure, do that. So as we always try to improve, we take these items that no longer meet code,
No, I get that.
that are in disrepair, and we enhance those with things that do make code now.
I was curious what the law said on that. Like, does that door, is it allowed to stay here forever as long as we don't do anything to it, or does we?
It could, yes. It is grandfathered.
It depends on the change too.
Right. We have wire glass all over the place, and we're trying to get rid of it just like we are asbestos. So it's very consistent with asbestos. You can have it in your school as long as it's not in disrepair and it functions.
I think this is going to be more useful once we have more detail. I'll go look at it and come back.
Okay.
I had a couple of questions. One, I just wanted to check, I think it was on the slide, but the theater storage
Yes.
changes, is that going to be like near the auditorium,
It is.
not in the basement, or like?
I did not actually put a slide up there. I didn't want to let the cat too far out of the bag, because some folks may or may not be aware. But in the F wing that goes down to our auto shop, if you're familiar,
Yeah.
right between the kitchen and the auditorium, down on the right, there are 2 bathrooms that are no longer in use, and those were the photos.
Okay.
So those bathrooms are cramped full with some science storage and theater storage. And there's also an additional space that is currently being used by some of the tech teachers. And they have squatters' rights right now, but we're going to be discussing that, and we're going to combine those 3 spaces into one large appropriate storage space for theater and music.
Okay,
And if you're not aware, we, in G100, up at the front of the building, we have this long skinny closet. There's clothing hanging. What can't fit there is in the other closet in G100. Then what doesn't fit there is an F-Wings bathroom.
yeah,
So we're going to combine, it's not going to be the save-all and end-all, because I still need a space for them to build sets, but this is kind of difficult, because we're having a hard time managing the assets. Which space is it in? You know, we have these
Sure.
wireless mics and all that, so we've kind of figured that out, and we just need to give them a dedicated space.
okay. And then, while we'd asked for some costs on a couple other things. The other thing I was curious about is whether there are any additional large spaces at the middle school and the high school that what it would cost to air condition them. So for example, at the middle school, I think there's a couple of like large orchestra and band rooms near the LMC.
Music area.
Yep.
That area. And at the high school, there's the big, the chorus room?
G100.
G100.
Those are air-conditioned.
G100?
G10, no, not G100.
G100,
F101 and F103 are air-conditioned.
Those ones are.
Yeah.
But my thought is, since one of the reasons we talked about doing some of the larger spaces, especially at the middle school and the high school, was so that if we have really hot days, we have places where kids can go. What the cost would be to add, and there may be more bigger spaces that I'm not thinking of, but
Those are the ones that come to
Right.
mind.
those 3, like just how much more that would add, because would that make it so that we had more spaces for people?
Okay, so my understanding is, I know exactly what rooms you're talking about at the middle school. Those would be on the first floor up front. We can look into that, and I did have a price from the last bond to do G100.
Oh,
It was 120,000.
okay.
That's,
It
that,
might be a little higher now.
right,
Yeah.
well,
But-
and again, that was the 16 bond.
Right.
And,
That's what I
Sure.
thought.
and I actually removed it from this one because we didn't want it, we were trying to focus on the classrooms.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of, and if there's any, Jody, if there's any
Any
other
other
like
spaces.
big spaces at those,
Yep.
in those two buildings that I'm not thinking of?
Yep,
Okay.
Is that the one Jason Dash mentioned?
yeah.
I meant to
Yeah,
know
that's that
thanks.
one, but but I was thinking
The middle school, there's that whole
there's that,
section.
right
that's-
near the LMC, there's like the big orchestra.
Music room.
and band room.
There's 3 rooms.
that are-
Yeah.
There's a third one too.
Yep.
Yeah,
They're
music
large
room.
Okay.
spaces. That's
Yeah.
probably a really good idea.
Yeah,
Any
So-
space with a piano in it.
so we can follow up at the.
At the next,
or
like, yeah,
the- or
just
September,
along with
one
the
of
other,
Updates.
And again, we are also, just, I don't want to keep talking, but we are also looking for alternates. You know, we're going to have that baseline, here's our scope, and this is our base bid. And we're looking for ideas and things that we would want as a potential alternate, because if the bids come in favorable, we may be able to select those.
Sure.
So that would be something that would be perfect for that.
sure. And then along with that, only other thing I was gonna mention is, and I'm sure you've already done this, but if there's anything else on the scope list to flag that's not high priority, but, and maybe is medium, but would be cheaper to do
Yeah.
now if we're doing all these other things, right?
Right.
And I don't know the answer.
We
to
kind
that,
of,
but like,
I know, we poured over that and really whittled this down.
Yeah.
And put a lot of thought into, you know, making sure that, I'm not saying that we've got everything, but we'll review that
Yeah,
and we'll take a
just
look.
to-
And if it's a smaller item, again, right now we're at 57.4, that is a real estimate that we could go and say, here we are. No alternates included, nothing like that. I was given the directive of 60 million, so do we maybe increase to whatever, 58.4 million? I don't know. So we'll
So-
find out. No?
no, I was just saying,
Oh.
I'm just curious whether there's, you know.
Yeah, I mean, so I hear you, I will get those, and we'll look into that. But I think I can get it relatively quickly, because again, the system that would go there, you kind of, the roof is right above it, there's nothing above it, so it would be really easy to do, but it won't be cheap. It's easier than running all this pipe, because that would be a rooftop unit that goes right above it. It's the ductwork that gets us, so, okay.
So,
Any others?
Other questions?
This isn't a question, it's just a request with regard to the proposals you're getting for that, the electricity consultant, the energy consultant. Can you just make sure when you address that next time, you address any efficiencies or advantages to doing it now as opposed to the next bond or something? You know, again, you don't have to answer it now, but just, in other words, would there be an advantage to doing that now as opposed to kicking the can down the road? You know, because my understanding from what you said was we could identify things for the next bond that we might want to do. And, you know, look, my bias is to not spend money now that
I
we
know.
could spend later if we want to. But if there's real reasons that we should spend it now, I'd like to know that as well.
Well, and that was the thought process, and maybe I didn't articulate it well. We, the project team, thinks that it would be a good idea to do it now, because it could enhance what we plan on doing in this bond. For example, the Ellesmere Middle School second floors. If we do this later and we say, oh my gosh, we should have done that last bond, now we're going to go in and touch these rooms again. Does it make sense to have this audit now so that, you know, we have a benchmark and we know what we need to do, not only in this bond, but anything down the road? We know that we have, whatever, failed windows at Slingerland. We know this, so we can, that'll help us prepare down the road, but it will also identify things that we might be able to fit into this bond while we're touching a room. The reason that we came up with this, lots of discussion about it. We're going into Ellesmere and we're touching those rooms because they're second floor rooms, they're hazardous, they have to come down to the bones, and we're essentially gut renovating that room and installing AC. Do we take advantage of the recommendations of the energy consultant to fix the envelope now and maybe derate our air conditioning and make it, instead of 2 tons of air conditioning, it's 1 ton.
Fair
That's-
enough, I didn't pick up on that as.
Right,
as
and I
well,
may have not,
so,
may not have articulated it well, I'm sorry, but we're proposing that we think if we can fit it in here, now would be the best time to do that.
Okay, thank you.
It's a benchmark.
I just have one question. Have we figured out the operational costs with all the air conditioning coming up, what that number might look at? I mean, obviously, I'm sure with all the fans and whatnot, those would be less used, but I'm just wondering, you know, like you look at the electric school buses, we've got some big line items because of the operational cost for that. Just wondering what the operational cost would be. And I guess another piece that would be a consideration is what would be the policy for, you know, do the big spaces get, in the summertime, do they really get air conditioned or not, or?
Right.
So I'm just wondering, has that stuff kind of been laid out yet?
We could try to get an idea, but I think it would be hard to estimate that, but certainly from a policy perspective, one of the challenges we have now, and Nick and I talked about this spring, is that right now we have certain rooms that have air conditioning that's monitored and is controlled at O&M because it's been installed, like this room is monitored at O&M, it's not adjustable here. When we have a lot of rooms that have the window units or the portable units, there's no monitoring, and they can be left on overnight, and those draw a lot of electricity
Right.
and are very inefficient. So the benefit of controlled air conditioning is that we would be able to set thresholds for when it goes on and when it goes off. Is it on in the summer or not? At the same time, putting in that amount of air conditioning is going to be significant costs from an energy perspective.
Right, and John, to answer your question, no, I don't know right now, because there's a lot of variables, but I think we could do a projection. Again, for me to do it, it's not my forte. I mean, I know how to do it, but I don't know how I would just capture, because each unit, we don't have a unit selection yet.
Right,
But,
right, right.
okay, so on average, what does it cost? You know, you see the sticker on the fridge, per annum, it costs you $345. I think there's a program that we may be able to plug in. I'm not positive, but I think I might be able to project that. It may not be a dollar amount, it might be a percentage that we're
Yeah, I
going
think it was
to.
nice to have, I mean, again, like, you know, during that one finals day, you know,
Mm-hmm.
we blew 20 grand in a day for pork. So like, obviously, I'm not saying we shouldn't be comfortable, I'm just wondering like what, is it gonna be a comparable amount or, you
Yeah.
know, how is that gonna, long-term budget consideration, what is that gonna be?
So our operational costs would go up, and I made the joke, our bills never go down. But, and that's part of it though. We're going to increase our use, okay? There's no question. So what can we do to reduce our existing equipment or become more efficient?
Right.
And we've already done our lighting, but we could probably do better because new technologies have come out. We can optimize our BAS and things like that. So let me see if I can find a model program that we could get a guesstimate. And my guesstimate it would be a percentage, like, hey, if you do this many square feet, expect that it's going to go up. Jody and I did talk that, you know, a policy of when do we turn it on and when do we not, because we battle ourselves a little bit, because we have buildings in the shoulder months that the boilers run in the morning, and then in the afternoon it's warm, so now we're air conditioning, and we just heated that space, and we're rejecting the heat that we just put in there.
Right.
So that's what we're talking about. We need to talk internally and say, look, you know, SED has a requirement of when and when. There's no policy from SED or the state that says air conditioning must be turned on in this day. They do for heat. So we would have to talk internally. What makes sense? Okay, and as you know, it doesn't make sense. Okay, it's going to be 81 degrees today and our threshold's 80, so let's turn it on today, shut it off tomorrow. It's not efficient.
Right, yeah.
And I
So-
think that we did just do the policy, we were required to do a new policy. If you recall, the legislature passed about the temperature day, heating
Right,
days,
Yeah,
or whatever it was
yeah.
called. And originally, they said a space, if it reaches 88 degrees, can't be occupied, bottom line. And then it was amended to say when feasible. In the policy, we did use the state threshold as kind of the baseline for when air conditioning is, kind of required. So there is a little bit of language, but obviously, if we have larger scale air conditioning, we would want to really look at that and maybe make changes to that. But there is at least now a policy that kind of sets some guidelines about that.
Yeah,
Again,
I'm
though,
not
you're-
saying that to be comfortable to be, habitable space. I'm just thinking,
Right.
again, like if you got, like that, let's say that G100, like, is that gonna be air conditioned all summer? Like,
Right.
I mean, like, just to look
Yeah.
at usage
Exactly.
and what's necessary to have those
Yeah,
spaces
totally.
Right,
operating in that.
Yep.
And I appreciate that because our auditorium, we have to air condition that all summer. If not, the wood curls up and
Right, right.
hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of materials in there goes away.
Right, right.
So that's a good point.
Okay, thank you.
Any others? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is our recognition of public comment on an agenda item. If we have anyone who would like to address the board on an agenda item, now would be the time to come to the microphone. Nope. Did you? Oh, okay. Item 6, action items. A, finance action items. It is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approve the following finance action items 1 through 8.
So moved.
Second.
And with thanks to the Book Club Foundation.
Yeah. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That carries. B, professional personnel action items. It is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approve the following professional personnel action items 1 through 35.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That carries. C, support personnel action items. It is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approve the following support staff action items 1 through 34.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That carries. D, other action items. It is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approve the following action items 1 and 2.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That carries. Item 7, recognition of public comment on a non-agenda item. If we have any visitors who would like to address the board on a non-agenda item, now would be the time to come up to the microphone. Item 8, future meetings and events. Our next regularly scheduled board meeting is on Wednesday, September 3rd, here at the high school, anticipating executive session at 6 and reconvening to open session at 7. Wednesday, September 10th at 6 o'clock, we are having our Board of Education retreat here at the high school. And then our next meeting after that is Wednesday, September 17th. Again, anticipating executive session at 6 and reconvening to open session at 7. Seeing no need to go back into executive session, could I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.